So very often, whenever we're talking about Christmas, we've got very much a picture of a king. I mean, we three kings of Orient are, and they come and they bring gifts. And we think about how he's born in royal David's city, and we think about how Jesus is born to be the King of Kings and all of this, and and the king image is so big. But there's an important thing about the coming of Jesus, is that he's not just a king, he's a king and a prophet and a priest. And we're going to talk a little bit today, because in our reading it's talking about Moses standing on the mountain, delivering the sermons of Deuteronomy and saying, there's another one like me and he's coming. There's another prophet coming, and you need to listen to his words. Now, he warns them not to listen to the words of those who pretend to be and to pretend to speak the words of God. But this prophet is going to speak the words of God. And we see this coming true whenever we read Matthew's gospel, whenever just at the very beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus goes up on top of the mountain, just like Moses, and speaks the words of God. He opens his mouth and speaks. Now that opens his mouth and speaks, you might think is a bit of a strange way to word anything, but it is telling us something very important. It's telling us that Jesus is speaking in the tradition of the prophets. He is coming as the final prophet. He is coming as the greatest of all prophets. And he comes to speak the words of God. So you'll find in the Old Testament that kind of phrase used over and over. When the word of the Lord comes to the prophet, insert name here, we get this phrase, he opened his mouth and spoke. And so this is what we have with Jesus. He gets to the top of the mountain, the Sermon on the Mount, and he says, opens his mouth and speaks. And he says, blessed. He pronounces the Beatitudes and he preaches the Sermon on the Mount. Well, in Deuteronomy 18, he is fulfilling that passage right there and then. He is teaching the law of God rightly, properly, so that it can be understood. He is informing the people of the will and the need to know God. And so this is why this is so important, that we see Jesus is not just coming as the mighty king, which is such an incredible image, but he's also coming as the prophet to teach us and to show us who God truly is.